Hey, how's it going, guys? Domino Paris 21 here, and I'm here with special guest David of I Am Vanguard. He's here. He's here showcasing his Liael Odium deck.
Best in one of time.
Do you just say Liael or do you just say Odium? I just say Odium.
I think Odium is just easier to pronounce.
I just say Odium, but I don't know. However you say it, either or. So we did a little bit of brief testing with it. Well, he did mainly. I was his battle partner for a lot of it. We recorded a match with it, and overall the deck is very strong. I think it is one of the strongest decks coming out of Set 5 and just in the game in general now. But for what I saw, super consistent, very strong, and just like, I don't know, the deck flows so well. I just feel like there's not really any dead cards that really happen for you. But like, what's been your experience so far testing with the deck?
Testing with the deck, I haven't seen any problems with certain matchups. I think the only hard matchup with this deck is probably King Levy Dress, just because it minuses my board, which makes it harder to hit big numbers. So I think other than that, it does have a pretty fair matchup against like Raziel and other, like especially Varga. This is probably Varga's probably an easier matchup with this deck, but it's super consistent because there's, like you said, there's not a single dead card in the hand. You can always discard to ride. You're not using any of your counterblast really. You're probably maybe using 2 counterblasts with the partner card for this, and you're probably using like energy for. Actually, I use the energy just to draw 7 or draw 1 card sometimes.
Yeah, so like it has a lot of flexibility with energy. It doesn't seem to be very resource starved for the most part. So yeah, so let's actually get to it. So for the ride line, we have the gauge here, of course, and along with that,
regress gauge.
He likes his Chrono Dran.
It's funny when people go first, and then I flip my Chrono G, and they're like, "Oh, nope, I messed up."
So the grade 1, we have the Steam main in Tiglot.
Yep.
Tigly.
Her effect is simple. When you ride her, just reveal the Liael.
Yep, the real one.
The real one, and then you flip over the.
And you get this. So it's kind of similar to Impaldio, but this is really the main source of the power, and I think that's what helps make this deck consistent, because the source of your power is not like a random card you have to pick out from your deck. It's something that is created already by the ride deck, and this is not part of the deck count, so that's actually pretty nice. So this is going to be like the main source, which we'll get to in a second. And then the grade 2 of the ride line, we have the Life Cessation Colossus. I can't pronounce this thing. Dark Shades have weird names.
Yeah, they have weird names. They're very difficult names, but they're all Colossus. But this card is really good. This is probably my favorite card out of the whole ride line, to be honest. Just because you put 1 card to the regress gauge, which you need anyways. And most likely you're going to put resources that you need, like the order or the grade 3 partner card that goes with Odium.
So this is set up.
Yeah, so you're going to add those to regress gauge and just draw 2 cards. So.
Like drawing 2 cards is so sick. Yeah. Like I like ride lines. I could just consistently draw you cards. Give this to Blangmar, please.
that will be problematic.
And then of course the highlight of the deck itself is Destined One of Time, Liael Odium itself. So so continuous skill during your turn, all your front row rear guards get +5 for each of your distorted Bane regress gauges. So depending on your regress gauge, that's where you get the source of the power.
Well, it has to have the
but this one,
distorted Bane.
This one, it's literally an order card that you play in the deck. So this is like probably like the most important card in the deck, because that's really how you get all your power. And then of course when she attacks, you can Soul Blast 1, choose a card from your hand or rear guard, and put it in the regress gauge. And then if you do, she gets triple drive until end turn. So it's nice that she get triple drive every turn. It's almost like you're striding every turn. You have to pay a card just to get a triple drive.
Yeah, you get pay the 1 cost to triple drive that.
This is almost like a crest. Like you get power, just like you do with Stride Crest, and then you discard 1 basically to get a triple drive. So it's pretty nice. So if you don't want to play a Stride deck but want to get that like nice little consistent power they have, I mean, she could definitely be a good choice for that. And then of course her Divine skill, the main highlight, of course. At the end of battle that she attacked, if you have 5 or more regress gauges, discard 2 cards from hand, and then you get an additional turn. Of course, you do have to skip the ride phase and main phase, so it's like you're basically restarting the battle phase in a way.
Yep.
And
so
you
you're
do
basically getting 6
you do
attacks.
draw for turn, get the energy, and all that. You just can't ride or go to main phase. You just
Because when you stand and draw, you technically get your draw when you stand and draw, and you also get the energy at the start of the turn. So that's why you still get the energy and the draw.
Yeah, so it's a nice big momentum push because not only are you getting obviously the extra drive checks, and then you're doing basically a total of 6 attacks. And although even with the additional turn, you are losing maybe a little bit of power because obviously if you Persona Road prior, you don't retain that power. But even then, it's still great. And what's interesting is that it actually happened in one of our practice matches. If your opponent damage checks like in OT on the first turn, that 100 million it's gone. It doesn't get retained, obviously. So it is a little bit of a way to dance around OT. I think I saw you doing it to someone doing that to you. Yeah, whatever. I don't care.
Yeah, whatever. Get your OT now. Reset.
Yeah. So the deck is pretty simple. You just slam down cards, profit. 3 attacks of 3 big swings with the triple drive, and then divine skill, and just keep swinging. So it's pretty straightforward. So that's the ride line itself. I always love ride lines like this, where it's just very beneficial, can set you up, and it's consistent. So grade 3s, of course, you have to run. Let's get her in here. Of course, you have to run the 3 Odium, Liael Odiums, and then you have the highlight of the grade 3s, like Billy said, the most important, the Distorted Bane. We got 4 of these in here. So you can play this if your Vanguard's Liael. You have a Vanguard with Liael in its name, you can Soul Charge 1. Or is it Soul Charge or Soul Blast? Soul Charge 1 and put this card face up in your regress gauge. So you can do that if you want, or alternatively, you can put this into the regress gauge through skills. And
with Liael skill mostly.
With Liael skills mainly. And then you can benefit from the auto skill, so when it's put into your regress gauge, you can draw a card and then choose one of your Vanguards and get plus 10. So, just really good. It's just kind of like the main fuel for the engine of the deck. So, how bad is it though? Like if you were to like damage check like 2 of these and then
if you damage check those, just kind of consider that you're playing basic Vanguard. It's gonna be very difficult without those. I would say, if you see that in your hand when you mulligan, I would definitely keep 1 or 2. Like if you see 2, I would try to keep 2.
Yeah.
It's very important to have it.
Would you say like maybe 3 is kind of like the
3
perfect
is
number if you can have?
No, 4 is the perfect number,
Well,
but
4,
if you can get 3, you can play the game. If you get 4, you can win the game, is what I think.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And at the same time too,
because when I was playing my games, I was very aggressively looking for these, and I would do no matter like whatever I can. Like sometimes I would not even like if this ends up in the damage zone, and let's say I didn't counterblast it, right? Like as a cost, then I would purposely just put this anyways to the drop zone, just so I can get to the drop and activate his skill.
Of our grade 3 here, so how many we have?
Run 4. Because he's very important. Like I would use his skill to get it back into the gauge.
Yeah, so that's his ability in the gauge zone. So the beginning of the battle phase, if he's in the regress gauge zone, you can counterblast 1, choose a card from your drop, and then put it in the regress gauge. So basically replacing him because he can call himself from the rearguard circle. So you're not reducing your regress gauge. He refunds himself. And then when he attacks, if you have a grade 3 Greater Vanguard with Liael, he gets plus 5 till end of battle. And then 3 more regress gauges, you can Energy Blast 2 and then retire one of your opponent's rearguard. So it gives you some access to retiring. Really nice.
And this is the only thing you need the energy for the whole game, to be honest. So
yeah, energy is so flexible.
If you go second, and if you Energy Blast 7 to draw a card, you can still use his effect.
Yeah, and then something to note too with the Distorted Bane is, now I know you don't necessarily do this because it's just your preference of playstyle,
right?
But with the Divine skill, if you want to split up those 2 turns, maybe distribute the power. If you have like, let's say a second one in your hand, like maybe you already paid the cost on the first turn with the first attack, you can then save the other one if you wanted.
Keep it in your hand.
Keep it in your hand, and then on your second turn for your Divine skill, you can just do it again, and then you can get a nice pump as well. I don't think it necessarily matters too much, you know, that kind of order, but that's just something to keep in mind as well. So it's pretty nice that
So
you can
it
stack
depends, like, you have to really look at your opponent's hand before you do things. So some of the situations why I didn't do it is because you were already pushing big, so you wanted to drop as much cards as possible from your opponent, even if they decide to just take the other few, or decide to guard the other numbers later on the second turn that you have with this deck. Just because then they're already dropping their resource and they have nothing in their hand to push you back. So either way, you're still getting your benefit depending on the order, but if you want to split the power just in case like they hit a, let's say they didn't guard anything and you're like, okay, well, he doesn't have, or he's gonna damage check me later on the second turn, so let's keep one just in case he does that. So I mean, that's a good idea as well. So it doesn't, you just gotta look at the situation before you make those plays.
Yeah.
Is what I think.
Yeah, it could depend too, but I do kind of like the idea of splitting it just in case. And plus, there's always like, you know, I mean, this is my paranoia. My opponent will OT me, and then like I just wasted that power. So that's just another way to look at it too. So those are the threes. The rest of the deck, I mean, there's not much to explanation.
You're just running straight staples.
I mean, this is really where the deck gets super expensive right here. It's like worth like $300 right here, more, yeah, something like that.
Probably a lot more.
So yeah, so 8 energy cyclers.
Yep.
So there's nothing more to say with them here, and then Orfest.
3 Orions.
Or Orions, excuse me.
So Orions are very, I can see why Orions are a very expensive card for this deck, just because Orions is very, it has a lot of value. So one is when you play the one order card, you would use Orions to either one, get the other order card that you'll need for later plays, because she searches for normal orders or units. If you get a unit out of your top 5, you can play it on the board, which usually want to get the grade 3, or any other card, honestly, just because the front row already gets a huge power. But Orion's definitely a huge playmaker in the deck.
Yeah.
But you still run lower numbers of it, just because it has less values than the recyclers.
Yeah,
would.
Like these are, 3 is, I think, is a good ideal number anyway. It's a good setup card. How often do you even use that secondary skill of Soul Blast 3?
Never.
Yeah, because
You're only using it for the first skill.
Yeah, so there we go.
I do run
And
this.
the one Twincast, because Twincast is just really good.
Well, the thing is, you're already playing orders from your hand, so you'll never able to use regular orders during your turn.
Yeah.
So you want to run a blitz order, and I think Twincast is probably the best blitz order, other than Elementia Sanctitude.
Yeah, I agree, because I think this is probably the best blitz order, because there's even times where you have this and your Sanctitude, in case you don't know what that is, the Sanctitude in your hand, so you can just choose to discard it so it's not dead, because then you can use it from the draw.
Yep.
So yeah, I really love Twincast a lot. Like, that's pretty much my choice in any deck I run a blitz order.
If you play a regular order, I would recommend running Twincast personally.
So then, pretty much for the ones, we have the PGs, not much there. Sanctitude.
I want to get the foils, so it matches my deck.
Yeah, there we go. Flex that. Yeah, like, because of Odium, I'd say it's even more reason to run this over the other one.
Yes,
like,
because of the Odium matchup.
the triple drive.
And right now, because of how the format's changing, with Light Rose coming out next month, I think running Sanctitude is probably the best choice at the moment.
Yeah,
just
I mean,
because it counters Stridex.
I always thought it was the best choice anyway. And then next you have the 4 Avarice Wrestler. You were like 40 cents at one point, I saw.
Yeah, you have to run him in this deck. If you don't, he's basically another order, like another set of orders you're running. So he is very important.
So you search for that.
Yes.
So you basically run 8 orders in the deck, in a way. And then, I think this is, I guess you could call it the tech slot. Because of course there's a promo we would like to play, the Shenri clone, but...
A lot of things are changing when the Dark State Shenri comes out. But until then, I think running the Clockwise was a better choice. Just because, like, when we were doing our test games, he probably saw that I was using Clockwise a lot. I was either using it for the early rush, because it's a 10k if I go second, or I was using Clockwise to get my cards back when I was discarding for Liael or the Avarice Wrestler. So he's very a key card at the moment.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you know, as we said, energy is so flexible that, I mean, you pretty much can always pay for it. So really, so it's good. Like most of the core of the deck is very simple, basic cards.
It's very simple, and you're actually not doing too much in your plays either. I think the only thing you have to be really careful is like how you use certain things and not overusing your resources.
Yeah, because I know sometimes, like, even with me personally, if I have an abundance of resources, sometimes I take it for granted, and then I get to late game, and then I'm like, oh, well,
it's like you win a lottery and you use all the money for something.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Instead of investing, yeah.
So, I mean, triggers are kind of straightforward. We're just gonna flex your high rarity stuff.
Yeah, I only have the high rarities for triggers.
I bought this, by the way, but I traded with them because I'm a good friend.
Yeah, he's a great friend. It fits my deck too.
So then the front triggers and blue OT.
So so a lot of builds were running the red OT. I did try the red OT the previous locals, and I didn't like it as much.
Really?
I mean, giving the extra power to restand and attacking multiple times is a good idea, but I just think pushing for the crit while you're having big numbers is probably a better idea. And just getting an extra card from hand really helps Liael in general, because the extra card will definitely come handy when you're guarding against the opponent. So
yeah, I mean, I don't think there's an objective right answer or wrong answer for this. I mean, I think both are great choices. For me, like with red OTs, I think red OTs are best suited when there's a specific rear guard that either
can get a self crit.
Self crit usually, so it can have that reach against your opponent, or maybe like on attack it has different abilities it can enable, like it can enable another attack, stuff like that. So that's where it gets value. But like just having a 9th crit in your deck is just very big. Because Liael, other than the divine skill, you're just doing 3 attacks. So just.
And I also was another opinion was the dark state over trigger, which is not bad because Odium swings for triple drive every turn, so
it's triple drive. It's like PG or die, and then if you can get the dark states OT early, the triple drive, and then she can give herself power just from the order, so you're always hitting for like nice steady numbers. So I don't know, I think this is just overall value.
Yeah, it's the safest choice at the moment. It could change depending on how the meta changes, but I think the blue OT is the correct answer at the moment.
So that's overall the deck itself. If we both agree, David and I, that this is going to be one of the best. Well, I think currently is one of the absolute best decks, best top 2 deck in the meta, I'd say.
2, 3. It's fighting for the 2nd slot.
Yeah. So there we have it. That is the deck itself. Very straightforward. If you have like $1,000 lying around, feel free to buy it yourself.
I didn't spend that much though.
Well, if you're buying it now, so.
But I would say some of the tech choices I would consider for other people.
All right.
Because that some people might not like clockwise, or when the dark state version of Shenri comes out as well, you can tech in other cards such as revert these.
Even more expensive cards. More expensive.
Just because I think revert these is really needed for the early game, because with the whole overall play with this deck, it is very slow in the beginning before it starts gaining advantage. So the revert these can definitely help push. And if you have the Dark State Shenri, you can call out the Dark State Shenri again and swing again.
Do you think that like that soul charge you can get, even if you don't want to use the skills, you could just like play it and just get the soul charge just in case you run out of fuel?
Obviously, and it's a 15k by itself. So if the field with Odium skill, if you get 3 of the orders in, that's a 30k by itself.
Yeah, but I like it also too. Like you can see any aggro matchups. You can just also snipe as well to help sustain that. So it's good.
Yeah, and then if we don't get the Dark State Shenri anytime soon, and if you guys don't like the clockwise, these 2 are something you guys can consider.
Cheaper, much cheaper.
Yes, it's much cheaper.
More budget.
A lot of people like the Colossus just because you don't use your counterblast and he gives you a soul charge, and there's a lot of situations that you need the soul charging, because that's your main resource that you're missing is the soul charging for the deck. It's not really the counterblast or the energy, it's the soul that you need.
Yeah, plus he can also gain boost if you have 3 regress gauges, so you can pretty much make the magic number with this, because he's going to be 18 plus 10 is 28 without any bonuses, so that's really strong. This card itself, I don't think it's bad either. It's a free shield, basically like 10k shields just to have. You're drawing so much, or just having like extra 10k shields you could draw into is really valuable. I don't really like this ability itself. It's a little weird.
It also searches. It also searches for him or the other Odium if you can get the persona right. But the last option also I've been considering is the cat, just because it's a 20k shield on defensive. and it countercharges. It's not like you need it, but you would only consider it for the defensive value because most of the time you're soul blasting your ride line. So
Yeah,
it's
I
another.
agree.
Yeah, these two are only because that you need it for the defensive value.
I really like this card.
Yeah, the
personally.
Colossus is really good. It's a 10k booster, so I would definitely consider running this if you guys don't have the options to run some of the expensive cards I have.
Yeah, so definitely do that. So there you have it, guys. That is the deck profile. Comment down below what, any choices that you decided on yours, and if you dropped $800 on the deck, let us know too, because I'm curious if anyone actually dropped $800 for this deck
From scratch.
From scratch. Anywho, that's it from us, guys. See ya.